Hey guys, welcome to Draw Near Moment. My name is Titus. It's that moment of the week where we draw near to Christ together. And this week we're talking about the debt myth. Let's get to it. Now, our society and our country as a whole has lost its mind when it comes to debt. I mean, every person must own a brand spanking new awesome car. Every student must have a loan. Every person must have a wallet full of just credit cards spilling out of them. We've just lost our mind so much to the point where our country is in a massive amount of debt to the tune of about $16 trillion. And I actually read something more recent saying it may be in as much as $18 trillion. We have lost our mind when it comes to debt. And it's kind of become the norm. It's become totally acceptable. And although deep inside of us, we kind of know that we shouldn't have debt, like debt's kind of a bad thing, we just kind of keep it around like a pet. And we're like, one of these days I'm going to get rid of this thing, but right now I just kind of need to keep it around. But it's really because of this one thing we don't want to do. And it's because we don't want to tell ourselves no. Now, I believe that God has something that he wants to say to us about this issue on debt. Now, some people will have to say that, God and the Bible, that's really outdated. Back then, they traded goats and sheep and stuff like that. But in this day and age, there's no relevance there, Titus. But I would say this, that one, God talks about money a lot in the Bible. Jesus talks about it a lot. It's all over the Bible. Just read it for yourself. And I believe that the Bible is true and the Bible is timeless. And if you have the ears to hear, God can maybe change your financial life. So let's check this out. In Proverbs 21:20, it says, "In the house of the wise are stores of choice food and oil, but a foolish man devours all he has." So he's saying hey, if you devour everything you have or you spend every dollar that you make, that's foolishness. That's a dumb way to live. And we go even further than that, and we swipe our cards, we sign our names to things, and we spend even money we don't have on stuff. We go further, and that's a foolish thing to do. That's what the Bible teaches. Proverbs 21:5, "The plans of the diligent surely lead to plenty, but those of everyone who is hasty surely to poverty." And he's basically saying hey, if you want to live be hasty and buy all this stuff and buy things you can't really afford, you're going to end up in poverty someday. There's going to be a day where you want to retire and you're not going to be able to, or you want to go on this thing, but you're not going to be able to. And you're going to look back and you're just going to have devoured everything and just, reap what you sow at that point. Proverbs 22:7, this is probably my favorite one. It says, "The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is the slave of the lender." It even compares people who are in debt to slavery. But it's even worse than that, because this is voluntary slavery. You chose this. You actually put your name on the paper. You signed up for slavery. And what it's teaching us is that there is no freedom in debt. Now listen, I totally get it. Debt is convenient, right? It's easier to swipe your card and it's easier to sign your name than it actually is to shell out money to buy something. It's so convenient, but so is McDonald's, right? McDonald's is convenient, but that we know that McDonald's is not a way to live your life. Eating McDonald's every day, not a good idea, right? And some people might say well, Titus, if I did what you're asking me to do, this would be a difficult thing. I wouldn't be able to do some of the stuff I want to do. And I would have to really cut back. It would be hard. But I'll tell you this, it would also be worth it. There's nothing more freeing than that experience. I was reminded of this whole thing because about a year ago, our garage doors broke. And because it was me and my wife, we worked hard for our money. Because it was our money, we weren't going to finance it. That was going to go towards this. I hunted, man. I called around. We were going to do some crazy things. We're going to be all right, you guys, we'll buy the doors from you, buy the motor from you. We'll have you install this. We'll have you install this. We were going to do whatever we could to get the most for our money. But here's the more amazing thing about it, is that even if we had went with our first estimate, it wouldn't have been a crisis, because we have this thing called margin. We've been setting money aside because we know that the only thing certain in life is uncertainty. And so we've been setting money aside. And anytime something happens, it's not a crisis. We don't have to panic. We don't have to get into a fight because we know that it's coming. Do you want to know what the debt myth is? The debt myth is that debt is freedom. It gives you the freedom to do whatever you want whenever you want to do it, as long as you're willing to sign your name, swipe the card, whatever you want is yours. That trip is yours. That home is yours, as long as you're willing to put your name to it. And as a result, debt is freeing. But the truth is it's not. Because what I found is that debt is ultimately chains. And the more things you sign your name to, the more freedom you are giving away. And if you are in a lot of debt, you know what I'm talking about. You know how unfreeing it is and how it seemed like it was giving you the ability to do things, but now it seems like it's taking away your quality of life. Now, I want you to imagine for a second what it would be like if you had no payments, no mortgage, no car payment, no credit card bills, no nothing. Now that is freedom. And that is something that God wants for you. And if you want it enough and you're willing to get really intense about it, you can have that style of life. And it can be yours. But you have to want it and you have to go after it. And you have to decide, you know what, I'm going to kind of turn my back on culture, and I'm not going to mind when people make fun of my old car, and I'm not going to mind when someone makes fun of my, small house or whatever it is, and I'm not going to mind when people make fun of the fact that I packed peanut butter and jelly for 2 weeks straight. I'm not going to mind any of it because I have a goal, I have a mission, and it's to be debt free because freedom is what I want. Now, if you want to make that journey, there's a guy I would recommend you checking out. His name is Dave Ramsey. The book that changed my life was The Total Money Makeover. Get that book. I'll put a link in the description. Also, you might want to check out Financial Peace University. It's kind of his teachings in like a classroom setting. They're all over the place, and I'll put a link to that below as well. But the truth is, I believe that God wants to free people if they are willing to allow him to. Just imagine what that would be like. And I'm just going to tell you that in my life, it's been difficult, but it's been worth it. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Draw Near Moment. I hope you'll go after getting debt free if you're younger, and this doesn't really mean anything to you. I'll just tell you this, stay away from debt. I would tell that to my kids or whatever, which I don't have kids yet, but when I do, they will find out that debt is chains. It is an anchor on anything that you want to do in life. Get rid of debt. Now, if you're older, take the challenge, check out the links below. And as always, I do this every Wednesday, so come check me out on Wednesdays, and also hit that subscribe button and that'll let you know whenever the videos are up. And hit the like also as well if you actually like this and you found it helpful. Again, guys, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week for another episode. See you then.